Hey there friends, I'm going to forego my typical introduction style in this video because it's sort of the same idea as my last video, how to harmonize a melody, in terms of it relates to this core idea of a musical unison. So if you're curious about sort of what that means as sort of a foundational principle behind why I approach harmony and melody this way, I would suggest going to check out that video. I will leave it linked down below. Beyond that, the main idea of this piece is best understood through examples. So I have 3 later on in this video. One example using only diatonic chords, so all in one key. One example using some substitutions, and one example with a full-blown modulation. First, I'm going to get into the method for how to write a melody over a chord progression. I don't know why I'm holding my hand like this. Before I get too deep into this video, I want to take a moment to mention my Substack. Before video essays exists here, they are written pieces published over on Substack. They include the resources linked inline, as well as charts and recorded examples, and even sometimes exercises for free download. Now, my Substack will be free to access for as long as I do it, basically. And I'm able to do that increasingly more because of folks that choose to become paid subscribers. If you want to hear a bit more about why I'm doing this here on Substack and YouTube and how you can support and what some of the benefits of supporting are, you can check out this video. I'll link it up above and down below. And I would like to thank the 26 folks at the time of this video that are paid subscribers. So yeah. For the following method, you'd be best situated at either a keyboard or with a guitar, something you can play both chords and a melody on at the same time. Though I often use standard notation, it's not required, and in fact, I've gotten much more comfortable just writing out my chords and voicings and melody notes on a whiteboard vertically, which is what I'm going to be doing in this video. Lastly, you will need a chord progression to get started with. Now, if you would like to either start with an existing chord progression that you just know or write your own, I have 2 really good video essays that explain how to do that. I have one called How to Analyze Chord Progressions that will help you make sense of a chord progression you already know, which will then make it easier to do things like write inversions and add a melody. If you would like to write your own chord progression, I have a video essay called How to Write Chord Progressions, I forget. But those 2 will kind of give you all of the harmonic information you need to make sense of it when you're coming around to this topic, which is how to write a melody over a chord progression. Now, let's get into the method. Step 1, determine what key your chord progression is in. If it's all in one key, you can put the key in like the top corner of your workspace, essentially. Just like circle it so you kind of have a reminder of where your grounding is. If the progression moves between multiple keys, consider using the bracket system, which is where you use a horizontal bracket over different key groups, and you label them above the bracket. For pivot chords, meaning chords that function in more than one keys, you would use an overlapping bracket, and the cool thing is that you can kind of use notes from either key depending on how you are developing your tension and resolution in your melody. So it's a very cool way to bridge key changes, I guess. Step 2, write a chord tone melody. The basic premise is to choose one tone from each chord, so like the 1st, 3rd, 5th, or 7th, and make a coherent melody out of having one tone for each chord. So let's say you're going from a C chord to a G chord. I could choose to make my guide tone melody going from E to D. E is the 3rd of the C major chord, D is the 5th. That's a step, so it sounds related. They kind of move in a direction. It doesn't sound random necessarily. That's kind of the idea, but obviously you'll have more than 2 chords and probably not just C and D. So you'll want to play through it while you're doing it and make sure it makes a strong, cohesive music idea to your ear. And that can include whatever your personal taste might be. The third step is an optional step, and it is to write vertically your chord spellings with the melody notes, your chord tone melody notes rather, on top. So in that example of a C chord to a G chord, so G, C, E to G, B, D, I would put E and D at the very top of that, and then G, C, G, B underneath it. I'm going to even color code those, so put the melody in one color, put the chord voicing in another color. It just helps your mental organization of these ideas as you're working through them. Step 4. Add additional notes to connect your guide tone melody. So very broadly, there are 2 categories of notes that you can put over a chord in your melody. Chord tones and non-chord tones. Chord tones are the very obvious ones, the ones I talked about earlier. So your root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th. These work great for having very consonant, very pleasant sounding things. In the very small analysis of things like tension and release, I would say that that would fall under release. Chord tones fit right in at home as long as the chord is relatively stable. Like a chord that has maybe like a, let's say like a C7 with a sharp 11 in it, maybe a flat 9 too. That's a little more unstable. It wants to go somewhere. So even if you use chord tones, it still might help, or still may just articulate that sort of tension. Non-chord tones fall into 3 primary categories, in my opinion at least. I think there's more in formal music theory, but these are the 3 that I find coming up most often. So the first one is called a passing tone. Let's say you would like to go from E to C in that C chord from before. So the voicing was like G, C, E. Let's say you want your chord tone portion of the melody to be E to C. You could put a D in there as a passing tone from the chord tone E to the chord tone C. So E, D, C. I also don't have perfect pitch, so I'm probably not singing those notes, but you know what I mean. Another category would be neighbor tones. So neighbor tones are notes that are above and below your chord tone notes. So you could also think of this as an enclosure. That's a really strong musical device. So like, let's say we're gonna go back to that E. That would have an F and a D as neighbor tones. So the note's directly above it and the note directly below it. So you could do E, F, E. That would be one example of a neighbor tone. You could also do E, D, E. That's the other. And if you wanted to make it an enclosure, you could do like E, D, F, D, or E, F, D, E. Those would both work as neighbor tone options. The third category is chromatic tones, which is notes that are outside of your key and oftentimes related by half step to chord tones. This evokes a very particular sound. It makes me think of a lot of early jazz, and in particular some bebop, where let's say a tune is landing on a C major 7. It would not be an uncommon thing to basically like enclose each chord tone with chromatic notes or approach them with chromatic notes. So for like the root, which is C, you could do C sharp, B, C. I didn't sing that right. Or like F, E flat, E, or G sharp, F sharp, G. It's a way of still like following your chord tone melody, but introducing some more colorful options. Lastly, you can just simply repeat notes that are already in your guide tone melody. The key with this step of adding notes to connect your chord tone melody is to think in terms of tension and resolution. I know I talk about it a lot on this channel, but I really think that that's like the crux of most music and art, is about flow. And what is flow but tension and resolution? It's something that creates motion. So for my first example, I want to start in the key of C with this simple progression. F, G, C, and A minor. This is in the key of C. So for step 1, determine what key we're in, I'm going to put C at the top of my whiteboard. So step 2 would be to make a guide tone or chord tone melody, rather. I am going to go through each of the chords, what their spellings are, and then start picking some notes. So we have F, which is F-A-C. We have G, which is G-B-D. C, which is C-E-G. And A minor, which is A-C-E. I want to start with a nice third, so I'm going to put an A for our F chord. And I'm also going to write down how I'm voicing the chord underneath it, but I'm going to do it in black. So I'm putting it in second inversion, so it's C and F below that A. From there, I'm going to go up to a B for our G chord. And basically keep the same kind of chord inversion. So we're going to D and G now. Or just the melody. Nothing too crazy yet. Going up to C. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go up to E, the third of that chord. And I'm voicing that G, C, E. So right now this is actually all the same kind of chord inversion. So they're all second inversion triads right now. But then I want to come back down, so I have A, B, E. I'm going to go down to C for our A minor chord, which again actually is going to put it in a second inversion. So let me play through the melody, and then I'll go through each of these voicings as well. So the melody is... With the chords underneath, it would sound like this. Sounds pretty nice so far. Let's put some connecting tones that make it more of a full-fledged melody. So I'm hearing something like do 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 do. That's probably... So it's kind of like an enclosure, I would say, but it uses all of the neighbor tones. So we're going to do A, G, A, C, and then landing on A, B for that next chord. So... And I'm hearing like a bum bum ba da or ba boo ba da do, but it's got to make it up to an E. So I think what I sang was, so B G E D. I could go back up to the E after that actually. So, but I think there's a better way to do it. I'm gonna do that. So a nice big jump in there. So that's B, G, A, I, G, E. So far I have. And with the chords, that would be... Yeah, I like that so far. I'm hearing it kind of doing a descending thing, like do 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 do, something like that. So I'm gonna keep that much. E, D, C, B. So far I have. I mean, to keep it nice and simple, I could just do C, B, A, G, and then it would lead right back into the very beginning of it. So if this was for like a pop song, like a lead line, that would actually work quite well. Let me play alone as the melody and then with the harmonization underneath. So we got... And with the chords... That sounds pretty nice to me. And I could even, let me put some more bass notes in it to see what it sounds like more filled out. So. Yeah, so you could like parse out the melody for one instrument, the chords for another, and have the bass in there, and it's like almost a full tune at that point. I'm going to move on to an example that uses some substitutions now. For my second example, I'm going to use the progression from Creep by Radiohead. I've talked about it before on this channel, but it involves two substitutions. So in this case, I'm going to play it in the key of E. So we have E, which is our 1 chord, G sharp, which is our major 3 chord, A, which is our 4 chord, and A minor, which is our minor 4 chord. So analyzing that, it is in the key of E, so I'm going to put E up here. Doesn't matter quite as much for this because we're going to play around with some non-key of E notes, but you know, why not? So E is our 1 chord, G sharp is our 3 chord, A is our 4, and A minor is our minor 4. So A minor is borrowed from the parallel minor, so E minor, because in E minor, the 4 chord is naturally minor, so we can just swap those back and forth and it has kind of a cool modal mixture effect. G sharp is a parallel substitution, so usually G sharp is minor in the key of E, but in this circumstance we just change the B to a C, or B sharp. I played the wrong, no I didn't, okay. There we go. B becomes a C, and we have a nice major 3 chord. So let me start with a chord tone melody for this, now that we know what key it's in. I'm gonna do G sharp to a C, to a C sharp, to an E. Just because I like the way that it sounds. Let me see what that sounds like. Let me keep this uncapped too, because I keep closing them and then having to reopen them again. So we got... Yeah, I dig that. Let me write the chord spellings underneath now for our step 3. So it's kind of like the last one actually. A lot of them are in second inversion, with the exception of our A minor chord, which goes to root position. So I'm gonna write enharmonics. I like E flat, or A flat rather, better than G sharp. So let me put a little slash there. So that all together. Sounds pretty good so far. Let me think about some notes I could use, keep elbowing this, for my connecting notes to make it a full-on melody. So... I'm going to start with the back end because I like this idea of ending it. So that's E, C, A, B. No. E, C, B, A. And that'll lead us right back around to our G sharp at the very beginning. So. Okay, the cool thing with that is it gives us like enough motion and of an idea to kind of start filling in other things. So after that, I'm hearing like do 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 do. So that's G sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A. And then C. Okay, I'm gonna get a little spicy with it for this next one. So this G sharp A flat substitution, obviously. So we can sort of use notes that both are in the chord and notes that are in the key of E, which really the only new note is the note C, but it sounds very nice to include that in our E scale. And in fact, I believe that's the major bebop scale. So it already kind of has like precedent, I would say. Not that that really matters, but so I'm doing C, C sharp, E flat, and then E, or D sharp because we're in the key of C. But I'm gonna put E flat because we're thinking in A flat right now. Oh, never mind. I'm gonna use D sharp. So we have I'm thinking that should just be followed by something like a do 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 do. Okay, so I'm gonna add in C sharp, E, G sharp, C, C sharp, sorry. G sharp, C sharp, E, C, A, B. And this is probably going to sound very good. I just kind of, I'm making a big guess here, but. Yeah. Can I play it with two hands? Let's see. So we got. Yeah, I think that sounds really good. Now I'm going to move on to an example that uses a full-blown modulation. So for the third example, I'm going to use a little bit of everything. I have a progression that has a full-blown key change as well as some substitutions and obviously some diatonic chords. So what I have is G to G7 over F to C, C minor, F7, B flat 7 over A flat, E flat, and then A flat 7. So let's get into what's sort of going on here. So broadly speaking, there are like two keys happening. There's the key of C and the key of E flat. So beginning here, These first three measures are in the key of C. So we have our 5 to our 5-7 to 1. Moving into, you could kind of call this a third key for a second, but the way that I'm thinking of it is doing 6 to 2 to 5 to 5-7 to 1 to 4, all in the key of E flat. But I'm going to put like a little asterisk there. So I'm going to do a big one that says E flat and a little one that says B flat. So that's like a little confusing, so don't think about it too hard, I guess. But so in B flat, this is a 2-5-1. In E flat, we have 6, 2-7 major, 5, 5-7, 1, and then 4-7. So this 4-7 is a parallel substitution. Usually it would be just a flat major 7. That's not right. That's right, okay. It'd be an A flat major 7, the natural 4 chord, in the key of E flat, but we make it an A flat 7, dominant 7, rather. E flat is diatonic, B flat 7 is diatonic, B flat is diatonic. This chord, the F7, is also a substitution. Same kind of idea. F minor 7 would be our natural 2 chord, but we make it an F7 with a major 3rd. And C minor is also a diatonic 6 chord. So let me get a guide tone melody going and we can work from there. So I've been doing a lot of thirds so far, which is totally cool, but I want to start getting in some other chord tones, and especially here we have a pretty adventurous melody, so I'm going to start on our root actually. So I'm going to do a G. I want to catch this F. And then that's going to bring us to our third over our C chord, which is E, which I'm going to continue for both of these chords in here. So the whole thing. Well, I'm just going to keep following the descending idea. We got D. So let me play a little bit of it. I'm doing too much without playing, actually. So far it's... It's kind of cartoonish, I guess, but here, let me see what it sounds like with some voicings. I'm going to go back up now, I think. And let me just try these two options out. So the whole thing would be... Yeah, that's kind of good, actually. Let me see what it sounds like with the chords in there. So... Yeah, okay. It's a little funky at the end there. I'm going to put the E flat over a G as well. I think that bass motion would sound nice. So that being said, let me fill in the lower voices. And I'm going to put the bass notes in here. I haven't been doing that because they've mostly been root position, but I'm going to put them in for now. Let me start connecting some of these notes. So first we got... I'm gonna just spell up the chord there. So da, D, B, E, G, F. It's kind of like an enclosure. So. Yeah. Do a little contrasting motion right here. Da 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 do da. Da do da do da. I played too much. This is the thing you get into, is you try out too many things and you just keep going and you forget by the time you finish something what you were playing in the beginning. But so that's the first half I have so far. I kind of want to do a similar type of motif, so da bo bo do ba do 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 do, similar motion on this half. So I'm gonna start with the same kind of like 6-chord type of melody right there. So. Also, I need to put a B flat in the voicing here to make this make more sense, actually. So, that's a flat, believe me. Yeah. That's kind of sick because it's the same 3 notes but with an altered E flat. So F, E, D, C, F, E flat, D, C. So starting on the B flat chord, I have. I almost like can't help but follow my flow state in this, so I apologize if I'm not, narrating every single step of the process, but like once my ear kind of catches something, and I hope this will be the case for you, you'll want to just kind of get it down. And I guess that's also to say, like, I'm actually doing this right now. Like, this isn't a canned thing. Like, I'm just figuring this out on the spot and filming it and hoping it works out and I can put it in the video. But I'm hearing it sort of ascend and doing it like up the octave the second time, basically. So I need to fill in this little space first. So starting on the B flat chord, we got. That's cool. We can do it either way. Do it above or below. I still don't know what I'm doing over this chord yet though. I'm gonna do the same idea as before, keep it nice and simple. So this is kind of the same motion as this C chord right here. Do, 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 do. It's actually the exact same motion, but transposed up a third. Let me play through the whole thing, and we can see how this is sounding. Sounds great. It's a little bit funky, so the idea with alright, my camera did die as I was finishing my closing thoughts, but basically the reason this sort of works as a loop is because A flat 7 is the tritone substitution of D7, which is the 5 chord of G. So I could even sub out that last chord, so go from that E flat over G to a D7 if I wanted to. And that would more like cleanly, I guess, bring us back to G, but like I like this sound. It may sound a bit jarring to some folks, but I think it works, and it kind of keeps the like circular motion of this progression together. So yeah, this is like actually something that I would probably write like for a Jerk song, so you get the real deal here. Hope it helps. If you have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. If you made it this far into the video, I thank you dearly. If you got some value out of this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to keep up with my work here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I will do my best to get back to you. Next week, I'll be back with a piece on Substack. Until then, take care and be well.